Welcome to the SketchUp for Schools tutorial for the display cabinet. This is where you want to start on your G Suite for Education page. Select Drive. Then from the waffle, go down the bottom and you'll find SketchUp for Schools. Now if it's not there, you can go to the G Suite Marketplace and get it. So we'll open that. Then once this is open, we go to Create New, Simple Template Millimeters. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to get the right view, basically. So we'll use the Orbit tool down the bottom here, left click, and then just keep our left mouse button pressed while we move our mouse around. We want to get the view something like this. Okay, we'll leave the guy in for a little bit just for scale. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to construct our side frame very similarly to how we would construct it in the workshop. So the first part we're going to do is the vertical part, which is the style. We're going to use our rectangle tool over here. Now you'll see with any of these menus down here, there's a little button. If you press it, you'll see that there's a range of other options that sits below each of these tools. So now I can either select rectangle this way, or if I just go back here, there is a shortcut, a keyboard shortcut for common operations, and rectangle is just the letter R. I would recommend you learn the keyboard shortcuts because it does really speed things up. So letter R, I'm going to just use my center mouse wheel to zoom in here a bit. Starting at the origin, I'm going to go up. Now it can be a little bit tricky. I want to get it out so I've got this red line. Okay, so the dimensions of the style on the side, it's 400 millimeters high and it's 35 millimeters wide. So I'm just going to type 400, and you'll see down the bottom right there, you'll see these numbers appearing. You can't type directly in there. It's not like you can actually select down there. You just type. So I've typed 400, 35, then I press enter, and you can see there's my rectangle there. Now again, I'm going to orbit around a little bit, just so I can sort of see it a little bit from the side. I'm going to use my push-pull tool to give it that third dimension. Now all of the timber that we're using is 19 millimeters thick. So I'm going to use my push-pull tool. Now that's here, or the keyboard shortcut is the letter P. So I've just typed the letter P, click. I'm going to push, and then I'm just going to type 19, press enter. There you go. Now if you're following along and you made a mistake, what you need to do, well, firstly with the video, is go back on the video until you've gotten to a point that everything is okay, and go through the video again. But the other thing to do is down here, you've got undo and redo. Just undo until such time as you're back to where you need to be. Okay. It's generally not a good idea to use any eraser function if you make a mistake. We'll go into that later on where the eraser comes in handy, but it's much better to undo. Okay, so we'll go back to this. We've got our side rail. I'm going to zoom in on it a little bit. Now this is a very important step. We're going to make this into a component. And a very important thing with SketchUp is that each separate piece in the real world, so for example, your side frames have got two styles, two of the vertical pieces, and it's got a top rail and a bottom rail. They're slightly different dimensions. Okay, and then you've got another side frame, so you double that again. So all in all, there's 8 pieces that we have to make, and that's not including the infill panels or the veneer. Okay, so this is our first component. What I need to do is I need to actually make it into a component, and I can do that 2 ways. The first way is by what's called a marquee selection, is starting from top left to bottom right, click and drag, and you'll see that it's gone blue lines with blue dots. So that's fully selected. I'll just click away from it to deselect. The other way I can do it is by a very fast triple click. So either of those two ways, then I right click, make component, and I'm going to call it style. Okay, there we go. All right, now I'm just going to orbit around a little bit just to get this view again here. I'm going to click away from it so it's not selected. I'll get rid of our guy now. He's there for scale. We don't need him anymore. So I'll just select him and then just press delete. Okay, again, I'm just going to orbit around a little bit more. So I've really got a very close in sort of front view. I'm going to do the bottom rail. So again, it's a rectangle. I can use my rectangle tool or just type R, click. Now, again, it can be a little bit troublesome to get this to go the right way. Sometimes you just have to work with it. So for example, in this case, I know my bottom rail is 120 millimeters long and it's 19 millimeters thick. And then I can add the width to it once I've done that using the push-pull tool. So that's what I'm going to do in this case. So all I do now is I just type 120, 19, enter. There it is. Then P for push-pull. Hover over it. I'm just going to come in a little bit close here. Hover over it until you got the blue dots. Left click, up, and then just type, and it is 49 millimeters. 49, enter. Okay, there we go. Now again, we've got to make this a component right now. So I can do my marquee selection like that, or again, I can do my triple click. Right click, make component, bottom rail. There we go. All right, again, I'm just going to zoom out. I'm going to use my pan tool just to drag it down like this. And we're going to go again with our top rail. So we'll select away, so there's nothing selected on here. R for rectangle, up here. We've got this on the red, which we will work with that. So remembering here, it's 120 millimeters long, so 120, comma, and it's 35 millimeters wide, 35, enter. There we go. Again, I'm just going to orbit, just so I can see the depth of it. P for my push-pull tool, hover over it, push out. Now I'm just going to show you, I'm going to zoom right in here. There's two ways you can do this. You can either push it out and then type 19, or if I zoom right in here, oh, I've zoomed in too far. If I zoom in and just hover over that corner there, if you look down in the right-hand box down there, it's automatically found that point and it's 19 millimeters. So I'm going to go with that. There we go. Now we'll zoom out. Again, we'll orbit around. Just also remember, I haven't been using it, but the shortcut for orbit is letter O, and you use it a fair bit. So it might be good to remember that shortcut as well. So again, we're going to make that into a component. So I'll marquee select it this time. There we go. Right click, make component, top rail. Okay, there we go. Now, it's sort of not all on the screen. So another tool I can use is my zoom extents button, which is this one here. And that sort of brings it all back so I can see it all on the screen. All right, so here we go. It's almost all done. Now at this stage, I'm not going to put in this other side rail, sorry, I'm not going to put in this other style, which is the vertical piece, just yet. Because basically what I can do is I need to put the housings on all of this. I'll just put it on these three pieces and then I can duplicate this piece, flip it and put it into place, and then we've got it there. It's just an easier way of doing it. The other thing too is I'm only going to draw one side frame. There's no point drawing them both because they're basically just mirror images of each other. So I might as well just draw one of them and then make a mirror image of it, which is using the flip function. You'll see me do that in a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to start by putting the housings in, the top and bottom rails, and then I'm going to put the housing in the stile, which is the housing for the panel that goes in. Okay, so to do that, it's probably good if I orbit around a bit and get a good view on this bottom down here. Now that we've made everything a component, something that's really important to remember, if I'm going to do anything to this component, I need to edit it. So first thing I do is I left click on it. So I've got these blue lines. That means I've selected it. Then I right click and it says edit component. Now my housing for my panel is going to be 5mm in from the outside face. So to do that, I can use the tape measure tool, or the shortcut is letter T. This is the outside face here. So I'll click, pull in, type 5, enter. Then I'll hover on that line because I know my housing is going to be 6mm wide. So again, I'll hover on this line, left click, move across on the red axis, and then go 6mm. Press enter. There we go. Okay, this one's pretty easy. So we're just going to go R for rectangle, up to that corner there, down to this corner here, click, P for push pull, so that's shortcut, hover over until you get the blue dots in there, left click, down, type 6. So our housing is 6mm deep. Okay, so there's our housing in the bottom rail. So the next one we'll do is the housing in the top. So what we'll do, again, we'll orbit around. We'll probably have to pan a bit as well just to get the view right. So it'll take a little bit to get this right. Yeah, unfortunately my mouse is quite touchy with this. So pan. Yeah, that's pretty good. All right, so now we'll just select this component. So left click, so I've got the blue lines, then right click, and we go to edit component, T for tape, outside face, come along, so make sure that line there is red, so come along, type 6, enter. And again, from that line, sorry, that was incorrect. I'm going to undo that. It was 5mm from the outside face. So I undo, so down here to the undo button. Let's do that again properly. T for tape, along, 5, enter. Then from this line, left click, make sure that that line is red, so we're going on the red axis, type 6, enter. Then R for rectangle, so that corner there, to this corner here, P for push, hover over there, and we go up, and then we just type 6, enter. There we go. So we've got that done for our top and bottom rail. Now, we want to do it in our side stile. So I'm just going to change the view a little bit. Just going to zoom out just so you can... Oh, it's not really going that well. This is, yeah, we want to just sort of get a reasonable view on this. That's not too bad. It's a little bit, I mean, I'm trying to do this for you guys just so you can see clearly what's going on. Quick and easy way of doing this is, rather than sort of, remember in the workshop where we've got to say, well, the bottom is 49, we've got to take 6 off that, that's 43, measure up, blah, blah, blah. Same from the top, what was it? It was 35 minus 6 is 29, well, we had to do those measurements. In this case, we can do it a little bit more easily. It's just a little bit harder to show it to you because we've got to kind of look inside those housings. So anyway, how are we going to do this? Firstly, I'm going to left click on the style. So I've got the blue lines, then right click, edit component, R for rectangle, and I'm going to zoom in close here because I want to get that point there. Now I'm going to zoom back out and I've got to come down, get this right. There we go. Got to come down to that point there. Then P for push there, and we're going to go, I've just probably haven't got the best angle on this, so I'm just going to press escape, and then I'm going to orbit a little bit, just around this way. P for push again, over here. I'm going back, and then 6, enter. Very good. Okay, I'll go down to zoom extents here. So I've got a bit of a view on this. Just select away from it, and O for orbit, I've got to use that shortcut. There you go, you can see the housing. Now the other thing too is, particularly when you're getting a little bit of detail here, you might want to have to look inside things a little bit. So I'll just show you something. Even though you've got all these menus here, there's still a lot more functions in here that are kind of hidden. Best way to do it, and we'll just learn as we go, use the search button, and I'm going to type X-ray. So I'm going to turn X-ray on. So it's changed my view. So I've now got this X-ray view, so I can start to see inside things. The other thing too is I had to draw a few guides on here to create these housings. And after a while, they can get in the way. So you might want to either delete or hide them. So again, here you can go delete. There we go, delete guides. That's one. The other one too, I'm just going to go hide. So you can hide things in here as well. But in this case, let's just delete them. Delete guides. There we go. So we've cleaned it up a little bit. And the other thing too, remember how I almost made that mistake up here where I said, let's go back 6 millimeters? You would have seen it, because what would have happened here is these would not have lined up. So basically what you want is you want everything here to line up perfectly, which if I have a bit of a look around, I'm just going to zoom in down here. Yeah, everything seems to line up very nicely. Excellent. So the last thing we're going to do in this tutorial, go back to zoom extents, is I'm just going to recreate this style here and put it on over here. Okay, I'm going to turn my X-ray off. So turn it back off again. There we go. Now to copy this component, again, O for orbit, I'm just going to get a bit of a view like this. I'm going to select it. I'm going to go Control C, Control V. There we go. There's a second instance of it. But you can already see there's a problem. The housing is on the wrong side. So how do we fix this? Easily is the answer. We right click on it and we flip it along the component's green axis. Okay, let's just orbit around, shortcut O. Let's orbit around and see if this is looking right. It looks pretty good to me. Now, if we rotated it, it wouldn't have worked, because the thing is, this housing needs to be oriented correctly. So it was actually a flip, pretty much like a mirror is what we did to it. Now we need to move it into place. And again, another important concept comes into play here. So this is our move tool, or the shortcut is M. But when we move something, we don't just grab it and try to put it roughly where we think it should be. We should always move known points to known points. So what I mean by this is, in this case, so I'm going to type my shortcut M. I know that on this corner has to go there. So I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to grab that corner and I'm going to move it to there. Excellent. So now we've got that. So O for orbit. Let's have a look around. Looks pretty good to me. Let's go in close. Let's make sure all the housings line up. Again, that looks very good to me. We could just double check that by going to X-ray. So we can kind of see inside things a little bit. Yep, and everything lines up. Very good. So we'll go back to Zoom Extents. There is one side frame done. There is a final thing that we need to do. Because this is now a sub-assembly of individual components, we want to select it all. So I'm going to do a marquee selection there, right-click, and make it into a group. So now we've got 4 individual components made into a group.